Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Midnight's Monsters the Goatman episode. And I hope I got you a good one tonight. I'm going to go through the disclaimer, then I'm going to go to the chat and say hello to everybody. So, copyright disclaimer is Nighthawk High Strange, this podcast channel may use some copyrighted material without specific authorization of the owner, but contends that it falls under the Fair Use Act, which is known as the Copyright Act of 1976. Nighthawk High Strange, this podcast channel, and all the podcasts on the channel declare fair use of any and all content. That's any and all content, including the music, to be used for the allowances of criticism, commentary, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, research, parody, and general knowledge only. And let's not forget the entertainment value. Per Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, otherwise known as the Fair Use Act. Okay, let me get that off of there. The Goat Man is what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to put up a picture here of one while I go to the comment section and say hello to everybody. Juno, brother, good to see you. Ozzy Sue, good to see you. Overbuilt, good to see you. Ray, good to see you. And yes, Ray, I'm getting that stuff mailed out this coming weekend to you, brother. All right, just so you know. Penny, good to see you. And Juno, I'm gonna stick something in the mail for you too, brother. Okay, just might take a little bit, but I'm working with limited funds here, guys. So give me a few more days to get this stuff out to you. So. Let's see. Is that everybody? Juno, Penny, Ray, Overbuild, Ozzy Sue. It's everybody so far. Okay, well, we're just going to go ahead and go for it, folks. Okay. I'm glad you all are here. I love you all very much. Your family to me. So let's get into the thick of this. The Goat Man. I don't know how many people have known about the Goat Man stories, and I know there's several different versions of it around the United States. There's some down in Missouri. There's legends of the Goat Man. There's some in Kentucky. There's some in West Virginia. There's some in Virginia. There's some in Maryland. Well, I'm going to go through the ones from West Virginia, Virginia, and Maryland for this one. Okay. We'll save the other ones for another night. Okay. So I had a couple reports given to me. Okay. And I followed up on one of them. There was a young man and his girlfriend. They, at the time, this was about a month ago, he said this happened. And he said that they were, it was a Saturday night and they went to an area where, they could be alone. Okay. Let's call it inspiration point. Okay. Just out of happy days. Okay. Anyways, he said that they got there and they were listening to the radio and stuff in the car and a couple CDs. And all of a sudden they heard this weird, heavy breathing over the music. And their windows were down, and he was driving an older Mustang, like in the 80s, like from the 80s. So the windows were down. So obviously they probably were manual. They probably weren't electric like today's cars. But anyways, the windows were down and they said they heard this heavy breathing and it sounded almost like a horse, had been ridden hard and it was just breathing really hard. This fog enveloped the car and they rolled up their windows, okay, manually. They rolled up their windows and they went to start the car and the car would not start. Imagine that. It could be the electronic fog that I was talking about several podcasts ago, if you all remember. The actual, what I call the electronic fog, I call smart fog. It's actually a living, breathing fog, okay? But they know it as electronic fog. Anyways, they said that this fog rolled in and it was weird because it just stayed around their vehicle, okay? And there was other, vehicles parked there too. It was like 2 or 3 other cars there. And this young man proceeded to tell me that, a big thump hit the back of his car. And he turned around to look out the back window of the Mustang, and he saw this. The only way he could describe it was a hulking figure covered in hair with goat horns coming out of its head and a snout, okay, like a bear's snout. Um, he had heard the stories of Goatman in that area of Maryland. This happened just outside of Bowie, Maryland. So, all you viewers in Bowie, Maryland, and in the Maryland state, beware, the Goatman is out there, and he's out there to get you. Good evening, Roxanne. Good to see you. So, anyways, they kept on, they tried to start the car, and the car wouldn't start. Okay, they made sure the windows were up all the way. They made sure the doors were locked, and they said that this thing proceeded to try and pick up the back of the car. In fact, it succeeded in picking up the back of his car and dropping it back on the ground. Well, after that, he went to start the car again, turning around to face the front of the car, and he got the car to start. Okay. And then he fumbled a little bit to try to get it into reverse so he could get out of there, but he remembered the thing was behind him. So he turned around to look out the side out the back window again, and the thing was gone. And he noticed the fog had let up, and the fog was going back into the tree lines of the wooded area where they were by. Well, he got the car started, he slammed it in reverse, and he got out of there. And he got down the road a little bit of the ways, and he stopped, and he asked her, his girlfriend, he said, did you see that? And she's like, yeah, I saw that. But she goes, I also saw it completely disappear. When the fog started disappearing, it disappeared. Now, my question is, all my little weirdo warriors in the chat tonight, what do you think about entities being connected to a mysterious living smart fog type of an entity, almost like an electronic fog that people talk about when they're flying airplanes and they see the tunnel, and they fly into it, and it puts them a half an hour ahead of time or a half an hour behind time, like a wormhole. Um, what are your thoughts on that? I'm just curious to see what everybody would think. Thank you, Roxanne and Penny. Thank you very much. What is inspiration point? Without a little heavy breathing. Oh boy. Overbuilt. I don't know about you, man. I don't know. You're definitely part of the family, though. That's for sure. Hey, Penny, keep him in line. You too, Roxanne. Anyways, to make the story even more convincing, they actually went to and saw a police officer that was parked next to the road down the ways from where they were at, and probably because he was getting ready to do a DUI checkpoint on those teenagers drinking and partying at Inspirational Point. But that's another story. But they told this policeman, what had happened, and that the thing picked up the back of his car and dropped it on the ground. And he said that when the fog disappeared, he told the cop that my girlfriend said that this thing disappeared with the fog. And yeah, fogs and portals are pretty much the same thing. You're right. But this kind of a fog is not your typical fog. It's almost like it's a living, breathing entity. It really does act like it has its own mind and will to go somewhere and will not to go somewhere, if you know what I mean. So, and I've experienced this fog a couple times on investigations and stuff. In fact, we had a problem here with that type of fog not too long ago, sometime last year. So, but yeah. Anyways, the cop didn't believe him actually. So, But he decided to go up there and he basically cleared out everybody. But he did get other people that saw this thing pick up this young man's car, okay, and drop it on the ground. So he did have other witnesses to back his story up, but the police officer still didn't take these kids seriously. Okay. So, even though there's a history of this goat man being in that area of Maryland, um, I don't know what these people are thinking of, but there's so many things that can connect this being to the supernatural realm. Okay. And what do you got here? It's like, let me see this. Hold on a second. Let me get to the chat here. Hold on. This could be just another case of the professional events and a whole bunch of the immigration. Okay, it's like driving in a thing fog. Suddenly you find yourself in a funnel. Yeah, exactly. It's just like the funnel. It's literally just like the funnel. Exactly. Just like that one pilot down in Florida that had that incident in the triangle. He called it electronic fog. So that's why I call it more like a living fog, because it almost acts like it has a mind of its own, and especially when there's cryptid creatures connected to it, um, or even other weird supernatural type of beings. Kathleen, good to see you. Cryptid Hunters, good to see you. Christine, good to see you. Yeah, this is really something though, because this young man, when he talked to me the other night and he told me this stuff, he was animate. He said, Nighthawk, he said, nobody believes me. He says, my own parents don't even believe me. And for a young man, that's probably just 20 years old now, um, to say something like that, it's kind of disheartening that people wouldn't believe him, you know, especially his own family, because even in my family, with all of our weirdness going on, growing up in the property and the haunted house and all that, with all the weird shit going around, we still believed one another, because we all went through it together and we all heard and saw things. But yeah, it was just kind of he was getting it off his chest to me, and I kind of felt bad for him. But that wasn't the only report, though. That's the thing. This part of Bowie, Maryland, is it's kind of hard to describe. It's along the Chesapeake, okay, and it's got other tributaries and stuff, small streams and stuff that connect to it. It's got a lot of woods, sporadic, okay, but it has enough room of wooded area to move about, especially at nighttime, because usually most people are sleeping at that time of the night, anywhere from midnight to 4 o'clock in the morning when this thing is seen. And the next person that was seeing it was a truck driver that reported it to me. And it was about a week or so before this specific incident. And this truck driver was driving somewhere in Maryland. I don't want to say where, okay, and I don't want to give away the company's name, okay, but it's a pretty prominent company and it starts with an S, okay. So, anyways, that's enough clues. This truck driver was hauling merchandise for a local Napa store, okay, auto parts store. And he was going down this road, okay, it was actually a blacktop 2-lane highway, he described it. And he said all of a sudden he had to spike his brakes because he saw this thing move from this fog bank out onto the road in front of him where his headlights hit it, okay. And he said as soon as his headlights hit it, he could make out that it looked like a giant goat man. Okay. And he described it as being about 7 feet tall, and it was fairly muscular. It wasn't like hulking muscular, but it was very, 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 very strong looking. Okay. Anyways, he said this thing looked at him. Okay. And he laid on his air horns, and he couldn't really brake in time, but he started getting closer and closer to this thing. And as soon as the fog reached this thing, it disappeared in front of the driver again in the fog, just completely dematerialized in the fog. It went back into the fog, and the fog went right back up the embankment of the land next to the road and into the tree line. Now, I ask you, there is really a lot of things that are getting connected to some mysterious fog. Okay. Um, so, is there a connection? I don't know. I'm not sure. I haven't really gotten that kind of a feeling yet. But with the goat man, there's so many different things that it could be, and so many things that it could be connected to. You know, so we really need to have an open mind when we're dealing with this, because I honestly think that a lot of this, when people see the goat man, I honestly think that it might be more on the lines of something supernatural. Okay. It could it represent the devil or Lucifer? It very well could. Could it represent a demon or just an evil spirit? Yes, it very well could. Um, but how? In growing up, when I grew up in the house that I grew up in, the haunted house and the property and all that, we had entities that we couldn't really see pick up our beds and stuff, and drop them on the ground multiple times, in the house, at the foot of our beds, just to kind of mess with us, and I never really thought that this a malevolent spirit would have the strength to do that, because we're talking beds that were built pretty heavy, okay. But now, more or less, picking up the ass end of a Mustang is a little bit more strength wise. So, could it be that this cryptid or this supernatural entity can make itself manifest physically as a cryptid? Um, Maybe it's on a higher vibrational frequency. I mean, there could be so many different things. And these reports that we're getting out of Maryland are not unlike the one from West Virginia. Okay, yes, all you people that live in West Virginia and Virginia, be careful, because the goat man's out there too. A young man was driving home from work at 11 p.m. one night down Route 33 from beautiful West Virginia, wild and wonderful West Virginia. Okay, and they don't call it wild and wonderful for nothing. Okay. Anyways, he was driving probably about 35 miles an hour, and he had a sedan, a car. And he said that all of a sudden this fog started forming alongside of his car. Okay. And some of you might have heard this before. Ryan, good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing good. Um, Anyways, he's driving, and he said all of a sudden there's this goat man running alongside of his car, trying to open the door to his car. Now, thank God that the young man that was driving the car on Route 33 had enough sense to have his door locked and his window up when he was driving that late at night. But he said that this thing got so frustrated that he could actually hear it jingling the handle of the car to get it open to get inside. And he said he sped up a little bit more, and as soon as he sped up, the thing fell back a little bit, and the fog stopped moving, and the thing stopped right in front of the fog. And he said he looked in his rearview mirror and saw it completely disappear. Now, that's 3 cases, okay, within a tri-state area. Okay, 3 cases of the goat man, recent accounts of the goat man. Okay. Um, is it possible that this entity can be at multiple places, multiple states? Is it possible that there could be more than one? Ryan, I'll let you answer that for me. Okay. Go ahead and tell me what you think. Um, Christine, good to see you. It's good to see you. Oh, let me see here. Jessica, what do you think? I'd be interested to know what Jessica thinks also about this. The whole idea of a living fog or an electronic fog is not very far fetched because when you think about places like the Brown Mountain Lights, they always talk about a fog bank. Okay, and out of that fog comes, the balls of light. Okay, and Brown Mountain Lights. Same thing with Gettysburg Battlefield in Pennsylvania. Whenever there's a heavy fog on the battlefield, there's more spiritual activity kicking up. So there's got to be a connection to the fog and to the goat man and to basically any supernatural type of activity. So thank you, Ryan. Hit that like, thumbs up, and all that. Yep. Don't forget to click that bell icon too. Let's see, Mid Michigan Woods here. All right. Believers are so unbelieved. It's a shame. Yeah. Well, the thing of it is that makes it rough for a lot of these young kids is, who are they going to go to for this type of an outlet? A lot of these kids, you know, they could really get messed up by running into these things or having these supernatural things happen to them too, especially when they're alone. Um, Let me see what he says here. Brother the Goat Man is one of those things that truly creeps me out. Oh, gee, thanks all a lot, brother. I know it's an occult thing. It's not natural. Yes, you are right about that. But there's such an account of them. I mean, there's accounts of the Goat Man being on railroad bridges, where people have been unalived. And there's a case of a goat man on a bridge down in I think it's Mississippi, um, where he has an axe and he drags it along the wooden covered bridge, and people that see him usually don't make it out. So I mean, and they'd always every time there's an incident like that too, they always say that there's a fog. There's a fog that rolls in. So there is a definite connection to the fog and to the supernatural, um, especially with what's going on in the world today. Kathleen, good to see you. Fog might be something residual. Yeah, you're right about that, Ryan. Definitely, it could be residual. Um, but then again, residual energy, as far as paranormal, doesn't usually interact with people. Residual energy is more like a tape recorder playing over and over again. You're doing the same thing, the same pattern, the same, you know, voices and stuff, the same statements that it's making, the same actions. This almost would be more like a poltergeist type of an activity, I would imagine, where it's more violent. So, but I don't know. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be very well wrong. It's been a while since I've done a ghost hunting event, but I'm very tempted to get up there and see what's going on. William, here's my thoughts on this fog. Could be a byproduct of an electromagnetic field forming that may be considered the water. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, though. All these incidences, fog is definitely moisture. Okay, it could be, like Ryan said, it could be residual, but I have never known anything that is um, in the continued loop process of the spirit world to interact with people. It's not like a intelligent haunting where it interacts with you or it can answer questions for you or make things move, that kind of stuff. Residual is residual, and I haven't really known any residual activity to act like this or to pick up vehicles. Um, but I have seen things come out of fog. So that in itself is very, very curious to me. It would be interesting to see if any of the witnesses heard a metallic bang. A lot of people who experience portals often describe that sound. Hmm. Yeah, I'll have to ask them that. I'll definitely have to ask them that. I'll get back to you on that, Ryan. Let me see here. What else? Thought about a long time. That was one conclusion I came up with. Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. I'm not taking that from you, little brother, all right? Don't worry about that. I'm not taking that from you. It's definitely logical. Okay, it makes sense. But it's almost like these goat man sightings are, I don't know if it's just attached to the land. And in fact, that's a good theory. Maybe it is attached to land. Um, the Rappahannock people and some of the other native people in the area could have cursed the land that the settlers, in that area settled on, and that would be one of the main areas of settling because of DC being so close. So it would make sense if that was once Native American land, burial land, or whatnot, and it's cursed to put this type of an entity to protect the land. Um, but then that would definitely mean it's malevolent in nature and satanic in nature, because anything that we call forth in ceremony is not your buddy. It's not that cute little cuddly kitten. So Ryan, you know that. But yeah, that the fog is what really, really gets me with this whole thing. You know, it really does. Fog is the key, and if we can figure out the key, we can figure out what's going on. So let me go back to the chat here. I'm trying to put some of these pictures up for you all. That way you can have a correlation to what we're describing here. This is actually a good one here. This picture here describes exactly what that young man saw to a T. Geek, you're awake? uh, yeah, definitely not something you want to cuddle. You're absolutely right, man. Yes, Christine, you're right about that. That's the other thing too, that makes it supernatural because you always know when supernatural activity is heightened if you have a cat or a dog around. You're going to see them act differently, maybe become more aggressive towards something that they're staring at that they don't, that you don't physically see. So yeah, that could be it. Um, I'd almost be wanting to go to this area myself and check it out, but I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to make that trip up there. So, William, isn't there usually some kind of mist or fog when a supernatural being shows itself? Well, Roxanne, that's a good question, and yes, there is. In fact, I'll show you a picture, one that I took from an investigation, and this is from the electronic fog that was outside of our house that we dealt with the one night, and this is part of it. And you can actually see where the fog. Let me get the comment off of there. Where the fog is in correlation, it looks like it's forming shape off the bottom, a torso. And then it's got almost like where the X is on the inside of the fog. You see how the fog actually looks like it's forming into something? Do you see what I'm seeing? The fog looks like it's forming into something. If you look on the end of the fog, okay, pointing towards the corner of the picture, you'll see a nose, a mouth, a face that almost is just flat pushed in like the Bigfoot reports, but yet it'll have bare ears at the top. If you can, I don't know if you can see that. If you all see that, First Nations people always talk about Mother Earth being alive, and she is. Okay, especially when we do ceremony, and we derive power from that through our Native American ceremonies. But this to me is just it's more than alive. I mean, it literally acts like it thinks for itself. Okay, it literally acts like it thinks for itself. And I mean, you can see by this picture. Get the chats off of here for a second. You can see by the picture, it is definitely trying to form into something. And this was in the tree line where this fog stopped. Okay. It wouldn't come out into the field where I was standing. Okay. This fog actually started to form into something, but it didn't get the total chance to do it, apparently. So, and this was the same night that we had the doe that was screaming. And if you've ever heard a deer scream, it's very, very chilling. It'll send a chill down your spine. But this deer was screaming. And then when this fog rolled in, the screaming stopped. So, I don't know. It's just very, very odd cases to me. And I'm going to be investigating them a lot sooner. William, I'll bet it really cult rituals are part of the DC crowd. You've been doing that. Well, yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Overbuilt, anything nowadays is an occult spell casting and stuff like that. Rock concerts and any music concerts are known to put spells out. Certain TV shows, movies, or even live theater. Some theaters, can words are spells, and words have power, and that's one thing that we as indigenous people we've learned that over a period of time that we need to be mindful of our words when we talk to people because we don't want bad things to happen unless we don't like the people. Okay, so well, there is a place in Pennsylvania. In fact, it's probably somewhere close to Titusville, PA, where it's a state park. Okay, I don't want to give specific details because I don't want people going out there and getting hurt. Um, but it is a location where a covenant actually attends rituals in the woods of this park. And in fact, there have been several people that have reported being chased out of there by an unseen being that was crashing through the trees and the branches and growling at people and the growl was so loud that it shook the ground that the people were standing on. So, I wouldn't put it past any area of our country not to have some kind of ritual um, ceremonies that are done in certain locations, and that's why a lot of this stuff is coming up. There's only so much energy we can put back into the ground, and if you put excesses of amounts of negative energy in the ground, you're only going to get more energy, negative energy coming out. So, and negative attracts negative. So that's, one thing that I've learned. But yeah, I just, I felt really bad for this young man. I really did. And I think I got through to him, and I think he's starting to realize that he's not crazy like a lot of people want us to believe. That he also realized that there is a difference between the paranormal and the supernatural. Okay, and he knows that there is a difference between the cryptid creatures and the supernatural. So, and he he spoke to his pastor, and I guess his pastor's going to keep an eye on him and stuff, and basically give him some counseling. So, but yeah, I just you hear so many people that have encounters that don't want to say anything, and it took a lot for this young man, this 20-year-old young man, to actually open up. And Griff, good to see you. But it is what it is. It's, I don't know, the Goat Man, the Goat Man. It's something else, man. I'll tell you that right now. Hey, did anybody? I want to also ask. Oh, I got one for you, Ryan. Ryan, if you're still there, and Jessica, if you're still there. In fact, all of you, take a look at this. This is a trail cam picture. It's not or CGI or AI. Have already checked that out, but it's a pretty good picture. Let me see here. Let me get that comment off of there. Come on, computer. All right. I thought that was interesting. That's a lot of monkeys. Hey, hey, with the monkeys. Yeah, that is a lot of eyes. Well, and you can see them too, though. That's the thing. Now, I don't know if this is an actual. I mean, it is an actual photo. Okay, I'm positive of that. But I think it's more of somebody taking a picture of a bunch of chimpanzees at the zoo, if you know what I mean, and posting it on their page or whatever as Bigfoot. William Bill J. Bean, the spiritual warrior, understand this stuff and actively fights at the head of the counseling. Took him up. So just saying again. Okay. Well, I fight these things all the time too, brother. So I'm not too worried about it. There'd be one time when I'll be over there with them, and I'll probably be the probably be the only one going fist to fist with them on the other side. So, but yeah, this I thought this was very unusual. But yeah, I think those are monkeys. I think that's just somebody's idea of a joke when they took a picture of a bunch of monkeys. But then again, I don't know any zoos that are open at night. Usually they close like 5 or 6 o'clock, maybe 8 or 9 at the most. Hmm, interesting. Devil monkeys. That's what they are. They're devil monkeys. Ryan, I don't know why you couldn't say that. They're the devil monkeys. I'll bet you they have a unicorn horn too. Uh, oh man. All right. Well, folks, that's all I got tonight. But I thought that goat man's incidences that were reported to me were very interesting. You know, I'm gonna go back to the chat. If you guys have any questions, I know you can't see me in the dark. I like the dark. Come to the dark. Huh? Where is here, Christine? Where is here? I'm just curious. You don't have to give me an exact location. Just, give me a state, or a country or something. Mid Michigan. Okay. You know what's funny? I was in Ann Arbor, and I was there, oh, probably about, hmm, my God, I can't believe it's been that long. I'd say probably 2009. God, I'm old. Anyways, yeah, 2009, and I was up there in Ann Arbor area for a Métis Native American festival there, and we had a report of dogmen in the area, and the coyotes were going crazy in Ann Arbor because there was something else out there with them. So yeah, that's definitely that's there's a lot of weird stuff in Michigan, man. I'm telling you. I tell you what, man, you guys got to have eyeballs on the back of your heads in Michigan. So, but I mean, anyways, nowadays that's pretty much everywhere too, though. If you think about it, the supernatural activity that's kicked up is incredible. So it's absolutely incredible. But everybody, if you could, please like, heart, and share this out, okay? Um, I'll let you all get to bed, and I'll see you all Friday night at 11 p.m. for Into the Red Rabbit Hole. We're going to be talking about the electric fog again. Okay, I'm gonna dab a little bit more deep into that, and I'm gonna see if I can find some things that can be connected, if you know what I mean. So, with that being said, thank you everybody. Please like this out and share it. Subscribe, and I will see you all Friday night at 11 p.m. Okay. Have a great day, everybody. A great evening, a great morning. Okay.